from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me from the west coast of the US, Faizan Ahmed. He's CEO and founder of Invensify. Faizan, as I was explaining to you before, the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So just giving some hints to the audience. Today, we're discussing a really cool topic, touching on, multiple aspects of technologies that I didn't cover before. I'm myself excited. I would not keep it long, so I'm gonna pass it to you, Faizan. The floor is yours.
Yeah, hi Mehmet. Thanks for having me on your show. My name is Faizan Ahmed. I'm the CEO and founder of Invensify. My background is in electrical engineering and solid state physics. This is my second startup, actually. Before this, I started a company called Genexus, which was in the camera space, where my co-founder and I had developed a special lens deflector, a rain deflector system for cameras that was an accessory that would plug onto a regular Nikon DSLR camera. And it would basically detect rain or snow and spin really fast and push the rain or snow out of the perimeter of an image or a movie that you're shooting with the accessory. That technology was acquired by a Hollywood equipment rental company. And it was a pretty quick exit within a year and a half to 2 years, I would say. And before that, I worked for straight out of college. I was recruited into a defense startup where I was the fourth engineer and basically became a head of R&D within a very short period of time and was responsible for architecting a system that enabled precision coordinate scanning and night vision goggles. The technology was acquired by the U.S. Air Force. So having gone through that experience of first working for a startup straight out of college and then starting my own company and selling it, I had a lot of experience in building stuff from scratch. So hence Invensify was not that hard as I had imagined in the beginning, but definitely has its own challenges.
Cool. And thank you again, Faizan, for being here with me today. It's like a very fascinating background in engineering. And this is, I was trying to give the hints to the audience. We're going to talk about something related to deep tech, right? And all the aspects of it. But traditional question I ask to all the founders and co-founders with me here, Faizan, what was the spark that, came to you and you said, hey, you know what? There is this problem, no one touched on it, or maybe there were some tries to overcome it, and then you decided to start Invensify.
So right after selling Genexus, I had a lot of time on my hands and I was spending time with my family. I noticed that my dad, he's been diabetic since I've known him. And every time we traveled, my dad would carry his insulin pens in an ice pack or an evaporated pouch. And when passing through the TSA agents in the United States, they would throw away the ice packs, and my dad would he would get on a plane and ask the stewardess if she could put it on the airplane fridge because he was paranoid about the insulin losing its potency. So as a physicist, I started thinking, why is there no reliable solution to move these temperature sensitive medications? We're still relying on ice packs and styrofoams, even though we're in the 21st century. So that was the impetus that sparked Invensify, as I wanted to build a portable solution for moving temperature sensitive drugs. And lo and behold, when I looked at the industry, I realized that the biopharma cold chain packaging industry is a $6.2 billion market that was still using ice packs and gel packs, styrofoam boxes to move very highly valuable drugs, stem cells, tissues, vaccines. Um, and after going through that process of studying the market, I realized that there is a huge problem with a big market that needs a solution, and hence Invensify was born.
I love, these stories, Faizan, because also you're solving something like not only from business perspective, it has the human aspect also as well that you just described. And I think, this is really important, as a founder, because you have a mission, you have, something that you want to solve really, in addition to trying to come out with a business model for it. But first, I want to focus on the technology. So, and I did my research, and of course, I'm not the expert. You're the expert. You're gonna help us like here a little bit. So, solid state cooling, as it's called, replacing ice packs that you mentioned, or maybe even traditional compressors, is something like kind of imaginary, right? So, uh, and what I love mainly about, anything which is related to hardware, to deep tech is, we have, and you come from an engineering background, so always we need to overcome some challenges, right? And um, finding like trade-offs. So, what were like some of these, engineering trade-offs that you had to make this work actually?
So I'm going to start from a very foundational level.
Sure.
The refrigerators that we are used to seeing in our kitchens. I'm not sure if you ever had a chance to look on the back side of the refrigerator. You would notice that it's a compilation of compressors and coils and CFC gas flowing through. And this technology has been around for decades. The reason why the cold chain industry relies on ice packs and styrofoams is because refrigerators by themselves are very, very power hungry. A
Right.
typical refrigerator, an efficient one, uses about 1,000 watts a day. And if you were to run it using battery, you're looking at 20 laptop batteries to run a refrigerator for one day. And each battery, a typical laptop battery, is about 50 watts and 200 grams. So you're looking at about 4 kilograms of just battery weight to run a refrigerator for one day. And if it has to run for 3 days or 4 days because it's going through a shipping process, then you're looking at almost 12 kilograms of battery weight, um, and almost 40 to 60 batteries themselves. So this is a problem because the transportation agencies, especially in the United States, you, do not allow for more than 100 watts to be on a product because lithium-ion batteries, which is what is powering most electronic devices these days, are very flammable and dangerous. So anything above 100 watts cannot go on a plane, and most of transportation agencies do not want to deal with a product with that much battery. Plus the weight, the more weight you have, the more cost you incur with transportation. And then because like I said, 12 kilograms is just battery weight. We're not even talking about the product. And then that's just for 3 days. If you're doing 4 days, you're looking at 16 kilograms. Just an estimation. So the problem was very simple. The problem was that refrigeration elements were bulky, very power hungry. So we knew, I knew that it was an opportune time to focus on solid state cooling. And the problem with solid state cooling was it's been around for quite some time in academia, and also you could hear about it and read about it online. It's called thermoelectric cooling. It's always had bad name for being inefficient, where you would put more power into it than the amount of heat that it would absorb. So what we did was we actually put together a team of people from Stanford, UC Berkeley, Boston University, and the idea was very simple. We want to create a very highly efficient solid state cooling module. The physics behind it was basically uh, material science, a combination of material science to generate enough heat absorption with the least amount of power input. So to explain it in simple words, imagine having two materials with two different conduction levels.
Mhm.
The junction at which these two materials meet, that junction essentially is you're trying to force electricity to pass through these two materials, and at the junction, there is a reaction that occurs, and that reaction essentially depends on the conduction level of the second element. So if I'm making some sense here, two materials, one has really good conduction, one has bad conduction, right? And now you're forcing electricity to pass through this module. So the electrons, when they get to this part, or electricity, they essentially have to absorb a lot of energy before they can flow through this second portion where the conduction is not really good, because um, it's like running through a forest. It's very dense. So in order for anyone to go through that kind of pathway, they need a lot of energy. And the same thing applies to electricity and electrons. They need a lot of energy to flow through this dense material. And that energy absorption results in heat absorption, and that results in cooling. So that's the basic foundation behind creating a very highly power efficient solid state cooling module was to create a mixture of materials with the right amount of electron conductivity, or to enable high amounts of heat absorption with as little power input as possible.
And I think one of the things that you solve also as well, keeping it lightweight also as well, right?
Yes, yes. So now the process started with essentially first focusing on the core tech, and the core tech was creating this module, which was a mixture of materials, right? So it's kind of like a solid state chip. Uh, and inside that solid state chip was, as I mentioned earlier, a mixture of materials, with the materials having different conduction levels, right? So that's that was the first foundation, was to create this module. Once this module was designed, now we wanted to put it inside a device and build an enclosure around it, and kind of give it like a full uh, product finish. So
Mhm.
that involved like building the materials around it. And so I have something here, for example. This is like a typical refrigeration system that I have. So the core tech is the solid state, and then you've got the fridge on top, for the 1 liter box that we built. So this is a smaller version, but this is what I was talking about. So you build the product around it, and it's pretty lightweight because we use plastic, and we use foam for the larger sizes. So on the outside, so that makes it pretty lightweight.
Wow. Like if someone is listening, I advise them to go and watch the YouTube, because you can see what Faizan just like showed me now. I get like a little bit shocked. It looks like a very also practical, I would say.
Yeah.
So no moving
No, I
parts.
could actually do a quick demo for you too, if there's time, but it's up to you. But technically, the idea is very simple. We're using a chip to bring the temperature down of an area
Uh-huh.
to a set temperature very quickly, and then the idea is to have that device maintain that temperature for 100 hours without any wall power, running on a battery that fits into your shirt pocket.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Coming from, the first 2 years in college, I was actually deciding to do the electrical and electronics engineering, and shifted later to computer. But like this is why anything, when you say chips, when you say hardware, like I get hooked, and you managed to get me hooked, Faizan. So no moving parts, no maintenance. I think much, maybe just the battery, right? And
Battery's off the shelf.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
that
because
that's
the
that,
battery is not our IP. Our IP is the solid state cooling chip. Uh,
right.
that module, that's our IP. Uh, the fact that it consumes very less power is the unique selling point. So we just buy an off-the-shelf battery, which is about 40 watts, 40 watt hours, 30 watt hours actually, and it's about this size. It weighs about 20 grams.
So it ended up also like not only solving the main problems you mentioned before, but also it's kind of sustainable, climate friendly also as well. Because when you we're talking about the compressors, and for people who doesn't know, compressors are not climate friendly. Yeah, so they are bulky, they are noisy, and they are not very much climate. So was this like something you put in mind, or like just it's something that evolved when the end product came out?
It was something that got evolved, that was evolved, and the end product came out. Just to be very honest, the main purpose of um, inventing or designing this product was to solve a cold chain pinpoint, and the sustainable aspects, the environmental friendly aspects, y- the green aspect of this product was something that came along as the product was evolving, but it was not something that I started this company with, where I had this intuition. I wanted to create something that was, good for the environment. That wasn't my first intuition, but it's something definitely that got evolved as the product was being developed, and it created such an interesting twist to the product, because now we had investors putting money into the company, not only because we were solving the cold chain problem, but because we were a green alternative in solving the problem. So it was something that added a lot of uh, bells and whistles to the product development process.
Fantastic. Faizan, like you mentioned the insulin case, right? And the main use case. Like when you were describing the process, so correct me if I'm wrong, like it's like anything related to healthcare that needs, this cooling all the time, like maybe transportation and so on. So beside or other than like the healthcare use cases, is where you envision this to be used?
So the technology itself is very, it has multiple applications. There are several verticals where this can go into. A couple that come to my mind are the first one is solving the EV battery charging problem. I'm not sure if you own an electric vehicle, but I own one, and it takes me about 30 to 40 minutes to charge my electric vehicle. And the reason why an electric vehicle takes so long to charge is because the battery inside is very flammable. It has to be charged through a process that doesn't try to charge it to, well, in more technical words, they try to limit the amount of cations and anions that are flowing inside the batteries. Because if too much of them flow at a certain period of time, the battery can blow up, and that's why they have to distribute it through a period of time. But if there was a very efficient cooling process embedded into this battery module, which there is right now, there's water liquid that is being circulated over the battery. But if there was an active cooling module that would help bring the temperature down to a really good level, then the electric vehicle battery time would go down almost a third, allowing the electric vehicle battery manufacturers to pack more batteries into their electric vehicles, hence resulting in more miles per kilowatt hour, increasing the mileage of the car, and also, like I said, so reducing the charge time and increasing the mileage. So that's a vertical we think we want to take on at a couple of quarters down. And then there's the solid state chip cooling space, where these days, because of the AI rush, there's a lot of emphasis on AI chips producing a lot of heat. We believe that this technology can be very, very helpful in cooling these AI chips that are super, super hot, and and as an adjacent vertical to that, data centers as well, which produce a lot of heat. We believe that this technology can be um, is applicable to that industry as well. So, a couple of verticals that come to my mind right now are these. There's a lot more. I mean, just just the simple cooler market, these typical igloo coolers that we use to take for picnics. That
Okay.
industry itself can be completely revolutionized, where people don't have to rely on coolers anymore. They could use something like this, where because keep in mind our product is plug and play. Once you plug it into a wall power supply, it gets down to set temperature within minutes, actually. But if you want to charge the battery, it basically charges the entire system in 45 hours. And then it maintains that temperature for 100 plus hours without any wall power. And in addition to the core tech, it's also connected to the internet. So there's a SIM card that goes inside of here. So the data, temperature data, and GPS coordinates, they get uploaded to the cloud every 4 minutes. So this entire package itself is something that, like I said, it might be too overkill for the consumer camping, hiking market, but definitely could be something that could revolutionize that space.
Absolutely. So let's discuss now the business model, Faizan, a little bit. So you decided to do something which is not traditional. So you decided instead of selling it as a hardware to do it a product as a service. First of all, why? And second, and because now we're focusing more on, the health care, use cases of it. And, these folks have been used to buying maybe the traditional stuff that they've been doing for decades. So how did that, get acceptance from your point of view?
So product as a service model is one that a lot of investors like. It's one that is very lucrative in terms of revenue and as a business model. So that was one of the driving factors behind establishing that as a business model, and the factor that really helped in shaping that business model was the fact that the current process basically is so labor intensive. The technicians have to take these specialized ice packs that are of a certain shape and form, and they have to. It's not just about throwing them in a fridge and then removing them and placing inside a box. It's not as simple as that. Essentially, it's a process. They have to have it inside a freezer for 24 hours, and then they have to have it inside a fridge for another 24. They have to have these ice packs inside a fridge for another 24 hours, so you're looking at a 48-hour cycle of just preparing these ice packs. And then they have to be assembled inside a styrofoam shaped box. So there's the assembly time that goes in, and then they have to put in loggers. So this entire process is very time consuming, it's very labor intensive, and very real estate heavy because you're looking at refrigerators and freezers specifically um, being maintained for cooling these ice packs in larger logistic firms like UPS, Healthcare, FedEx, Critical, which I've been to these facilities. They have 100,000 square foot facilities just dedicated to cooling ice packs and for these small clinical trial boxes that they assemble. So I figured, and we figured that this entire process is so labor intensive, and our product is plug and play. So we're saving everyone, each one of these logistic companies, so much money in the amount of time and processes that they would not be requiring anymore. So hence, it made a lot of sense to just tell these guys, hey, instead of going through this entire process, just pay us a few extra bucks.
Right. Have you seen also, Faizan, this headwind, the tailwind, as they call it, of every business, and of course, including pharmas and hospitals, and even other verticals as well, where they have these initiatives, coming from ESGs and so on to have like lower footprint of carbon. So were these like kind of tailwinds for you that also like people, hey, yeah, like if we adopt this technology, so basically, we'll be reducing our carbon footprint, and it's like a more green technology. Plus, maybe on the long run, everything is going to subscription. Like even cars today, cars manufacturers are like trying to sell their cars as a service. So basically, you just rent the car instead of owning it. So, did you see these, I would say initiatives coming to your side when you started to position the product in the market?
Yes, definitely. These things were a major part in shaping the business process. Sustainability, using it as a selling point by the green aspect, reducing the carbon footprint. These are all these aspects kind of came to us at an opportune time. Um, when the world itself was kind of dictating these terms, a lot of regulations are coming out across the globe to limit the carbon footprint, to deploy sustainable models, to reduce waste. So we were fortunate to step into this commercialization space at this time, because all of these aspects really helped us promote our product. Because the ice packs and styrofoam boxes that the current pharmaceutical and logistic companies use, they don't last for more than 2, 3 cycles, and sometimes they're just single use, so they have to throw them away every time. Literally, they just uh, toss them into the trash, and it's not biodegradable. It's not good for the environment. Though a lot of these pharmaceutical companies started coming out with regulations. This is separate from us promoting sustainability. We just came in at the right time, and we used that. Say, you guys have sustainable programs. This is perfect to, to fit into your model that you're trying to promote. So that really helped in in promoting the product, the energy aspect, also the fact that it requires minimal energy in getting up and running, and then no technicians required to solve self-explanatory. Everything is embedded inside temperature logging, GPS logging, coordinate logging, all that is embedded. So that really kind of helped, get the product out. And the product as a service model, definitely. So one of our biggest investors is a contract manufacturer, and because of this relationship, we're able to build this product at a price that is probably most hardware companies can't build, because of this relationship we have, which allows us to provide these units to customers as a service rather than putting the capital expense on the customer and say, hey, you have to pay for this upfront, because we have enough funding where we uh, manage the expenses upfront. And that's, again, that's a fortunate place for us to be in compared to other companies, because we are able to take up the upfront cost of the product and not put it on the customer and have them pay for it either per month or per day or per delivery. We have different models. So we
Nice.
tell them, you pay when you get paid, or you pay as you go.
Absolutely, very creative way and fascinating way, I would say. You mentioned investors a couple of times, and I know you've raised for the company. Now, when we talk about fundraising, so look, fundraising is hard by itself. Uh, Building hardware is also hard, right? So it's not something easy. And usually we know in the investors world, in the VC world, and so on, like it's more software obsessed. So of course now we started to see the AI maybe you know reinitiated this you know investor appetite for deep tech again and investing in hardware. So, but from your perspective, like what were like some of the unexpected challenges you faced while fundraising, and how did you overcome them?
So fundraising, as you mentioned, is very hard. It's very, very hard. It's definitely not easy. What makes it slightly easier is having some credibility in this space, which I had in terms of me working for a defense startup straight out of college, and then selling a company right before Invensify, which was also a hardware company. So these two things really helped in shaping the credibility of Invensify, the idea, etc. The second thing is the fact that we never positioned Invensify as a purely hardware play. we kept focusing on the fact that this is a product as a service company, and the fact that hardware is actually helps in controlling the ecosystem and gives us an edge and the with competitors, because we have the full process, or the full all the elements under our control in the ecosystem, the hardware, the software, service. So these aspects, so that was the second aspect that really helped. The third aspect that really helped is when you're doing hardware, and this is my personal opinion, you one has to really develop something that's 10 times better than the current solution, 10 or 15 times better than the current solution. Uh, I think that really sells to the investors. When when you're developing a Me Too product, for example, a hardware product, something that's maybe 2 times better than what's out in the market, then you're going to run into issues with investors saying, "Hey, it's hardware. It's going to have reliability issues, manufacturing. There's a lot of elements at play. It's too risky." And we faced that too with our company. But the fact that we're building something that's when we try to frame it as Tesla for cooling, uh, is something that changes the mind of the investors a lot of times, where we say, okay, we're building something that is the future, and it's 10 times more powerful than what's out there in the market. No, there's no other competitor out there that can offer the kind of efficiencies we're offering with our product. So that those three aspects, as I mentioned, right? The business model, the credibility aspect, the fact that we're building something that 10 times more powerful than what's out in the market. All these three things help in the fundraising process.
Absolutely. Faizani, because you just mentioned, and maybe we can relate this to multiple places of this discussion. So, your previous work, and you just mentioned, it's because like you are a second time founder, you work with, you know, in the defense industry. So, other than, this, for folks who usually, start with one vertical and then they go not jump, I mean they go and they find the next problem to solve in the next vertical. So is there like some transferable, I would say, knowledge or transferable experience even if the verticals are different, and is there something that helped you also as well from your first company when you started Invensify?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that are independent of the core tech that one learns when they are part of an organization. Um, Having worked at a startup straight out of college and then doing my own startup, it basically uh, gave me the experience of wearing multiple hats and doing multiple things in a short period of time, being very efficient. Uh, and it sort of became part of my DNA to produce the most amount of work in the least amount of time, and properly positioning a solution to have the most impact, uh, and working with the right partners, hiring the right kind of people, building the right team, ensuring that when you're building your product, you go out there, talk to the customers, get and understand their pain points, um, getting some big names around your idea early on. Uh, these are things that are independent of any vertical. These are things that uh, you can apply to any vertical, um, and help establish a business. So like I said, I learned a lot of things upfront in my career, working for a startup, wearing several hats, where I was not only designing product, but marketing it, even wrote the manual for it, and then went and became an applications engineer, where I installed it at the customer site. Um, so having that versatile experience being able to address the exact pain points of the customer, listening to them. These are things that I think one should learn, uh, regardless of the core tech of the business.
Absolutely, 100. Like this is key, and you just hit the nail on the head, Faizan. Like it's talking to customers, understanding, are we solving, problems for them? Um, what I think also in your case, especially because you can, the tangibility of how the solution really fit, it's very very important because you know are we solving the real pain that you have? And of course you can do this regardless of, as you mentioned, where you are in. This is the key, indeed. Now if I want to, see from your perspective the future of temperature sensitive logistics, right, in the future. So and maybe how this might affect, the traditional refrigeration in general. So do you envision a world where we don't have to have these bulky compressors in the future? Uh, what are like some of the maybe other um, trends, or maybe some of the other, uh, I would say, visions that you might have, you want to share with us here today, Faizan?
Yeah, so I definitely believe in the future where we don't rely on compressor-based refrigeration techniques. I believe that a lot more research and development has to occur in what we started uh, with our cooling module. There's a lot of um, work that can be done here in terms of improving the efficiency of our current uh, baseline offering, um, and the future is really dependent on um, building systems that are efficient uh, and and good for the environment. I think we're going in that direction as a human race, where we're trying to build uh, green, sustainable, environment friendly, climate friendly products. Uh, and in that, with that sort of uh, framework, I think our technology is definitely one where I strongly believe, would be replacing big traditional refrigeration systems that rely on these old techniques, and we will be investing a lot of time and a lot of effort in building more and more efficient models of our current tech right now. And that's where I feel like I want to be able to see. And by the way, I won't mention the name of a big multinational company that approached us 2 years ago, because of confidentiality reasons. But we were approached by a huge soda company, and we all know who this company is. And they wanted us to build fridges for countries where electricity was not constant, in order to house their sodas, and they wanted to sell this their sodas along with this fridge that they wanted us to build. Um, Using our technology. So we had to put that project on hold, and we did mention that we will come back to it once we have a team, and we want to go into this vertical. Um, but because that we were approached with this opportunity, we know that there's a market we want to go after, uh, completely transforming huge, big traditional refrigeration systems with our tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And exciting times also as well, Faizan, like because again, these solutions, especially that touch human lives, like uh, and day-to-day life, I would say uh, there's a lot of place for innovation still, because people's mind usually they go, when we talk technology, it's go to more software. I tell them, guys, like the real innovation is still in that space, in these areas that no one touched on, for a long time. And whenever I speak with people like yourself who are like in this space, I feel like more excited, because I tell people, hey, like it's not only about like SaaS and Me Too product and with two couple clicks here and there. Of course, I'm not like saying this to minimize, the effort that teams put there, but these are like the impact projects that we see, which is mind blowing in my opinion. Now, if I want also to ask you, because you did this uh, multiple times and this is your second company. So which one do you think is harder, to build a cutting edge technology, or is to changing the industry mindset itself? Which one do you feel is the harder one?
Changing the industry mindset is definitely harder. Uh, building a cutting edge, building cutting edge technology, you need an idea. You need a team of people who are experts in their particular disciplines, and everyone can basically put their head down and work in that in a lab environment and come up with this cutting edge technology. By the way, this is my opinion. Um, and I think with AI, it makes it even more easy because AI makes information so accessible. You can go learn about building things just by accessing some of these LLMs, ChatGPT, and ask them questions on what materials to use for what example. So there's information is so accessible today that building cutting edge technology, I'm not saying it's not hard. It's going to be very hard, but I feel like building cutting edge technology, you can still do that with a team of engineers sitting together with their heads down, working on it day and night. But turning it into business, turning it into something that makes money is hard. Because you could build something that is amazing, is cutting edge, but if it's not solving a problem in a meaningful way for a customer, it becomes something that can sit in a museum. It's not going to be something that's going to make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people have built products that never sold. I mean, there's a time and place for everything, right? We have seen products that have come out earlier than their time and they weren't successful and they became successful later on. Like the Macintosh, for example, when it came out in 1984, it didn't create the huge waves that later on the Apple products did. But the idea of user interface, having a GUI, having a mouse, making it something that was accessible to local people, local consumers, that was something that unheard of in 1984. I mean, I wasn't even born at that time, but just looking at the videos and understanding how people perceive, oh my God, like how, because they looked at computers something big thing. So what I'm trying to say is that the reason why it didn't take off was people were not convinced at that time. People don't want to spend a lot of money. And you know what? An interesting thing. One of the things that Elon Musk did with Tesla was he made Tesla's, like, I think maybe 7, 8 years ago, he made Tesla's patents accessible to everybody. And the reason why he did that was because he wanted to change the infrastructure where he was building something that required an infrastructural mindset change where people are no longer going to gas stations. They're going to electric chargers, which the people need to understand that you're going to be waiting for 30 minutes to charge your car. Um, it's not you are no longer going to be able to go to a mechanic. Like there's so many mechanic shops that you cannot go to anymore because your car, if it breaks down, you have to call the dealership. You have to call. I mean, it's just by thinking about it, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want to buy something that nobody else has. And what if I spend all this money, my car breaks down, I can't even find a mechanic. Like, you live in Dubai and you can find a mechanic anywhere. Just take your gas car and he'll fix it. But when you have an electric car, they're like, call the dealer. I don't know how to fix this. So one of the ways he did that was he actually made the patents accessible so that the industry, everybody starts building this. So the industry is forced to change.
Right. I was just checking something. I don't want to give the wrong thing, so this is why I was checking something. So to your point, Faizan, I think there's the famous early adoption cycle, right? So s- it looks like some technologies, they don't get the enough early adopters to move them to the next point. And this is, to your example about the Macintosh. And I agree with you. Again, it's my opinion. it's shifting the mindset. I'm not, yeah, as you said, it's not, we are not saying it's easy to come up with cutting edge technologies. Of course, it takes like time, effort, and a lot of research sometimes, especially in a domain like yours. But I mean, yeah, to go and convince someone like, hey, you've been doing this for decades. Look, I've came with a better solution, cheaper. In your case, you have a lot of edges to talk about. And yeah, it's like, economically better. But again, because no one else used the technology. So this is, I always say, what drives people to be able not only to innovate but also to push them as an ecosystem is to find these early adopters, the people who are willing to try, at least to give feedback. Because I tell people, if you are in a startup ecosystem where you don't have enough of these early adopters, like, don't get me wrong, you're gonna hit the wall because you will think that you are not innovative enough. But the problem is not you or your technology. The problem is you don't have enough early adopters to try this. And I think, some, um, I would say, ecosystems like Silicon Valley is the most obvious one. So I think one of the major successes, reasons for Silicon Valley is having these, early adopters chunk, I would say, which are willing to try, even if it's not, perfect. Whereas like other ecosystems, which are like now, of course, changing with time, but I'm telling people like, guys, you need to have this early adopter mentality within the community, so at least we can encourage these innovators. Otherwise, they're gonna go, turn their backs and go somewhere else. So to your point, 100%, Faizan. Faizan, like really, it's an amazing discussion with you today. If you, to like summarize, or if you want to give like some advice to fellow entrepreneurs, fellow technologists, engineers, what you would tell them and how they can find out more and get in touch.
Um, so just as an advice to founders, I don't think I'm in a position to give a lot of advice. I have still a lot to learn, but if I were to maybe give some advice, I would basically say this: that startup work is really hard. Um, what you see on LinkedIn, what you see out there, is usually the beginning and the end process. Uh, but you don't get to hear about the tons of companies that never made it. So eh,
Yes.
if you really believe in something and you have the grit and the emotional intelligence and strength to pursue it, then go for it. Go build that idea you have, uh, and you will most likely succeed if you have the capacity, the strength, the grit to withstand through this entire process of building, selling, exiting, going IPO, or that entire process from 0 to 100. um, that's one advice I would give you, is have to have that grit and emotional strength to go through this, because it's not an easy process. If somebody wants to learn more about the company, they can always go on our website. They can add me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to discuss ideas with people, and give them and help them in any way I can. And if they're doing something, because people have helped me. I've been very fortunate of people helping me, introducing me to some investors, introducing me to some vendors or customers that have got me to where I am. So I try to give back as much as I can as well.
Sure. One thing I forget to ask you, Faizan, did you start expansion outside the US, or still, you're focusing on the US market?
So interestingly enough, we have our main customer base is in the US, but our manufacturing is actually in Malaysia. So we have a manufacturing facility in Malaysia where we build these units. Um, we are looking to expand into Europe this year. So and also the Middle East. We plan to maybe expand around next year into Asia and Middle East. But this year we're looking to expand into Europe.
Great. Middle East is a good market because of the heat and the severe weather here. So I believe it's gonna be a very good market for you, Faizan. And for the audience, I'm gonna put Faizan's LinkedIn profile. I'm gonna put the company website address in the show notes if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, or you're watching this on YouTube. You can find the description. Faizan, I can't thank you enough. Really, I enjoyed the conversation. As an engineer, I always love to talk to other engineers and learn from them and, learn more about the technologies that they are using to solve real world problems. So thank you again for being here with
Thank
me
you.
today. I appreciate the time. And as always, this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. Guys, if you just discovered this podcast by luck, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure you did. So please subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. We're trying to make an impact. We're trying to, get all this information from awesome founders like Faizan all over the place. And if you are one of the people who keep coming again and again and send me their questions, suggestions, and just their thank yous, I appreciate this. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. I read them all. And thank you, actually, this is for the community, for making the CTO Show podcast this year trending into the top 200 charts of Apple Podcast across multiple countries. So we are now in April. Like, I think last week we were in 5 countries at the same time. So really, thank you for all this. And of course, as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.